If you're watching this video, you probably already know what Artfight is, a once-a-year art event hosted by Artfight.net. During the month of July, you upload your characters, join one of two teams, and you draw other people's characters. And that art can be assigned a point value based on factors like how much the character or characters you drew, the level of shading, how complicated the background is. And that's just for 2D art. You can do like any creative endeavor pretty much, I think. People can also attack you or even defend themselves after you attacked them by drawing your characters in return. Whichever team gets the most points at the end wins Artfight for that year. That's an extremely basic explanation on Artfight, but that's okay, because this video is not about explaining Artfight, it's about documenting my time participating in Artfight this year. And this year, with the teams of Stardust versus Seafoam being my 5th year, I thought it would be the perfect time to do so. Real quick though, a couple of things I want to state. I don't really care about the competitive side of Artfight, so I'm not even going to mention how much each piece is worth point-wise. I will be mentioning which art I do is an attack or a defense, because I believe it provides context for each piece I will be drawing in this video. Speaking of, I will be crediting the proper artists to their respective characters and crediting any attacks or defenses I get. So, whatever art people draw for me, I'll be crediting that appropriately as well. I will be referring to these artists via their usernames on Artfight, but when crediting them, I will mention any other socials they have listed on their Artfight profiles, so you can check them out later on, or check them out now. I don't know, do what you want. Also get ready for just a lot of repeated words and phrases and overall awkward narration from me. I'm not the most competent at voiceover stuff yet, so thank you for your patience. And finally, I will go ahead and say that I did not record speed paint footage for some pieces of art I drew. I will go into specifics when we get there, as it happens a few times, and there is some different reasons why it happened. So, like I said, we will get there when we get there. So with all this explained, let's get on with the show. Hark, for those who roam beyond, the Roving Knight lurks deep in the depths of the liminal. You may find yourself no longer feeling alone. Beware the knight with cape dripping red, eyes dull and blank, and blade parched for blood. It can't be bargained with, it can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it will absolutely will not stop ever. Until you are dead. Sayonara, the Wayfarer. The first ever Artfight attack I did for 2024 is the Roving Knight, who belongs to Prob on Artfight, but you can also follow his Tumblr at ProbbleBobble. I was really excited to draw this attack as soon as the Artfight gates opened because, well, mainly Prob is a good friend of mine, and I've known her for many years, but this OC of hers is actually an OC for my silly little story idea called Liminal Lost and Found. I've made a few videos on it in the past, but to quickly summarize, it's basically like imagine the back rooms, but there's basically no monsters. Characters from across the multiverse have a chance to just randomly slip in to this place called the Liminal. It's this space between spaces. Some of those in the Liminal came together and made a settlement called Littletown as a way to work together and increase their chances of survival. The Roving Knight, however, is not one of these people. Instead, she lurks around the Liminal looking to slay whoever he comes across in order to use their blood as sustenance to fuel himself. Or at least that is what Prob has told me in the past. Not sure if this info is the most up-to-date. If not, whoopsie doodle! For this drawing, I definitely went in a very loose and rough rendering style. I think I drew this a bit earlier in the day and thus I wasn't properly warmed up. But I think I was still able to give this pose that the Roving Knight is in an intimidating look. At the very least, it gives off the impression that you, the viewer, are next in line to have your blood used as juice to go in the Roving Knight machine. Not that the Roving Knight is like a robot or anything. I was just trying to be funny. Anyways, it was after submitting this attack to Artfight, I got a notification, right? Apparently, this attack was my 75th attack, giving me the achievement 75 attacks. And well, when I saw this, I kind of had to give myself another goal. The first goal, which I haven't said yet, is to draw one piece of art for each member of my online friend group, Clownhaus. And the second goal was to get the achievement for 100 attacks, which I knew was 100% possible as defenses are counted for this, and with 25 to go and 31 days in July, I could draw one piece of art a day for Artfight and have plenty of time to spare. I mean, 25 attacks. How hard could that be? On day 2, I checked Artfight and I was ambushed. I had been attacked 3 times, with the 4th one coming to me later that day. In order, we have Man by Turds, which is this art of my OC Man, giving this very charming thumbs up. Nova by Hazy_Valley, in which my OC Nova, she's looking very cool and confident and ready to start a performance. Feeling Cute Might Do Some Crimes Later by Manly T, this beautiful illustration of the collector doing just that. They're looking cute and they're gonna do some crimes later. And finally, we have Silly Fang 2024 by Chop Time, which is this sweet and lovely drawing of my OC Damien. I decided to start day 2 by defending myself by drawing Hazy_Valleys, also known as Ashy_boy_art on Instagram, character Bozo Dazzle, who is this very cute clown / jester, and as a casual clown, jester, mime enjoyer, I couldn't pass up on the opportunity to draw them. The lore that Hazy_Valley has written for Bozo goes as follows. Bozo Dazzle is a retired mascot who's down to clown around. In its time as a mascot, they always had a balloon at hand waiting for a child to walk by. They knew how to turn any frown upside down. After retiring, Bozo found something missing. He no longer was able to bring joy to the children. Now, searching for a way to fill the hole, Bozo Dazzle works small jobs as a jester at birthday parties. They have a pet balloon animal, a little red balloon dog, who comes with them to all parties. Honestly, I forgot to draw their little balloon dog, and I'm kicking myself now for forgetting that precious little balloon dog. But the past is in the past. And also maybe we can just pretend the little balloon dog is out of frame. I'm pretty sure for this drawing I mainly used this brush called ZH Flatbed Textured from this brush pack on Clip Studio Paint by ZH Illustrator that I don't remember the name of, but I do have the ID number for it, and that is 1983646. If you're interested, I like the brush a lot. I like how you can probably tell by, my art so far. I'm someone, I don't really work in a lot of layers. I usually work as few of layers as I possibly can. So I like brushes that I can be very versatile with. So in this case, I can block in colors with it. I can do line art, fun stuff like that. But I will say, even though I did use this brush a fair amount throughout the month, I did kind of phase in and out of other brushes too, in like these phases. Kind of like when Picasso had that blue phase or whatever. I don't know. I think this is pretty much it. I'm pretty sure I forgot to record things like any finishing touches and adding a gradient map, which is a recurring pattern throughout the whole video, and that's something else I also apologize for. But yeah, here's Bozo Dazzle. What a fun, charming design. I love all the pastel colors it has. It was a real blast. Yippee. On day 3, the attacks just kept coming in. This time it was soft reboots. Levka joins the fight, this very cool drawing of my OC Levka and his definitely not a lightsaber. Disney, please don't sue me. And Julius and Damien by Quail Crossing, which portrays my OCs Damien and Julius having a very beautiful and tragic moment. Continuing my journey at defending myself from those who attacked me on Artfight, on day 3, I drew Dean Holt, who is Turds, aka Turds0 on Tumblr, and also Turds on Toy House. This is his Marvel Sona, which I think is super neat. I don't interact with the concept of having a Sona who is part of a pre-existing media franchise, like Dean is here, and doubly so because I don't really keep up with the Marvels. I think the last Marvel adjacent thing I watched was maybe Across the Spider-Verse, or maybe it was Guardians 3. I don't know. Anyways, I wanted to take this opportunity to draw kind of a action-y scene with Dean crouching behind some rubble as the conveniently facing away from the camera to avoid Artfight getting into legal trouble Hulk throws a car at some aliens attacking the cityscape they're part of. And Dean, he's hiding behind this rubble. He's waiting for his chance to strike down some foes. It's very first Avengers movie in the vibes here. The biggest struggle I had looking back on this piece was the colors, making sure that the values on Dean's suit didn't blend in with each other while also making sure all the colors together were cohesive. Thankfully, once again, my wonderful friend Gradient Map came in at the end and helped a lot with that. All in all, I had a real fun time with this piece, and thank you, Turds, for this opportunity. Like I said before, I don't really know that much about Marvel stuff these days, so stepping outside of like my usual wheelhouse and doing something different was really fun. Thank you so much. On day 4, I got this wonderful traditional art of Julius by Angelic Aphelion. I also got my first defense for the year when my friend Prob drew this art piece titled Thrilling, Is This Love? Mainly featuring my OC Nova performing at a concert with some of my other OCs from the same story as hers being in the crowd. And fun fact, Prob based this piece off of a Rhythm Heaven song, which I think is pretty neat. The character I drew here on this day is Ariel, by Manly T, who also goes by the same usernames on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, but with all slightly different spelling, so I'm gonna make sure I put them up on screen here. Ariel's description reads as such: in this universe, heaven is a digital space entered through screens and is ruled over by an all-knowing AI, which is widely considered one of the gods and has its own religion. She is one of the angels there. This is definitely one of the coolest ideas I've ever heard for not only like a character, but just like a story idea. Combining tech and religion like that is, I don't think I've really heard of something like that before. And with such a cool, OC idea, I wanted to draw Ariel doing something just as cool. So I drew her in this kind of intimidating pose where she's pointing her gun at an unknown target. I had a lot of fun drawing her dress. The lace, the frills, the ribbons are just really pretty, and it makes the fact that she has a gun like really stand out and like contrast. In my mind's eye, I see her like doing some sick ballet moves, and she like pulls out her gun. I know that's a bit unrealistic because she's wearing heels, but I still think it'd be neat, be pretty cool. I also really love the bow the gun has as well. I think it's just a little cute detail. Like the gun has to be pretty too. I do realize now that like when I was drawing this, I thought the angle she was at, you wouldn't be able to see the other side of the back bow. But now that I haven't drawn it, it just looks like I forgot to draw it. So I'm sorry about that. If this is not my favorite illustration I did for Artfight, it definitely has my favorite title. Angel with not a shotgun, but still a gun. Watch out, pew pew. Though funnily enough, I actually did slip up on that too. I accidentally had the title be Angle instead of Angel for the longest time, and I only realized my mistake while writing the script out. Thankfully, I was able to go back and fix it, but I will not lie, I'm a bit embarrassed. So I think that's just the theme of this piece, where the concept is there, but I kind of tripped up over myself. I hope you can forgive me for that, Manly T. I hope you still like the art despite this. Yeah. But that's not all. That's right, Day 4 is the first multiple illustration day. I also drew Showstopper, who belongs to Chop Time, as another defense. Chop Time also has a Twitter under the name Draw Masquerade. Showstopper, aka Aussie Eno, is a Toontown corporate clash OC, specifically a cog. And even though I don't play Toontown corporate clash as much as I used to, in fact I haven't touched the game in a hot minute, I was still really excited to get to draw Showstopper here. To paraphrase from Chop Time's description on him, his arms are a boa, which certainly makes for extra warm hugs, which made my heart very warm and fuzzy. So I had to make sure to give his arms a proper, elegant fluff fitting of a feather boa. This piece came together really quickly. It might have been one of the quickest ones I drew. I think it took me about 45 minutes if I remember correctly. I had a lot of fun with the colors, especially using the yellows to indicate highlights. I know it took me a bit though to make sure like his stop sign head was the right shape, that being an octagon. I know I had to like go through multiple times, like making sure there were 8 sides and I like wasn't going crazy. I think for this piece I used a combination of the ZH flatbed texture brush that I mentioned earlier, but also various brushes from the Donner's Clip Studio Paint Brush Pack Volume 1 oils from the Donner on Ko-fi. This brush pack, you do have to pay for it, but if you are interested, I think it's really worth it because these brushes are really awesome and they are normally my go-to when I do art. And I really like how most of them have like this color jitter to them. It's all really nice and cool. But yeah, here we go. That is one Showstopper for one Chop Time. On day 5, I drew Summer as a defense for soft reboot. It's kind of hard to believe that we're technically already 1/6 of the way through this video if we're going by the day count. At the time of recording, I don't know how long this is gonna be, but in the meantime, let's talk about Summer, who once again belongs to Soft Reboot on Artfight. And you can also find him on YouTube under Soft Reboot. And by total coincidence, or at least based off of the minimal interactions we had, Soft Reboot is also planning to make a YouTube video about his Artfight experience, so, go check that out when that comes out. Smile. As for the art I am drawing, Summer is a slime person who was brought to life accidentally in a food prep lab. And to quote Soft Reboot directly, she, personality-wise, is a very gentle and kind soul. She loves herself a sweet treat, especially natural sugars like fruit. And not just because of the taste, the aesthetic is just as important. So with this in mind, I wanted to draw Summer in a cute outfit. And I was also really inspired by the fact that in her ref sheet, it said that you can change the toppings on her head. So I kind of went with this look that was definitely kind of 80s inspired. I believe I was referencing this image I found on Pinterest for both the outfit and pose. I did end up keeping elements from her original outfit, like her belt. And instead of multiple cherries on top of her head, I just went with one cherry surrounded by various sprinkles. And the star sprinkles I decided to do because her belt buckle looks like a moon crescent to me. So I thought that'd be a fun little thing to kind of tie in with each other. So there we go, just a kind of fun, although simple drawing. Summer, while it's still summer. There you go, whoopie doodle. Thank you, Soft Reboot. By this point, I had drawn a fair amount of art over the past few days, and I was in desperate need of some nourishment, and my curiosity got the better of me, so I went to Zaxby's and I got the Mr. Beast meal. Mr. Beast? Do you think his head is actually that large? I feel like his head is really large. And looking back, especially with all the, recent events and information that's come out about the guy, I actually feel really bad about it. I don't trust this man as far as I can throw him. His meal doesn't really help with that because it was okay, but good God, was it just very decadent. As someone who only gets the Cobb salad from Zaxby's, I had to take home leftovers and finish it at a later time. And that was even after sharing the meal with my dad, who went with me for dinner that night. Also, the chocolate bar, it was okay. But yeah, much like the man behind the meal, it was very rich and it made me feel gross. So I went home and I went to bed, and thus ended day 5 of Artfight for me. Day 6 started with me getting another attack featuring my OCs Diemi and Julius, this time being drawn by Donnie or Lane on Artfight. It's very cute, and I really like the little smooch to the side there. Very priceless. Speaking of Diemi and Julius, today I drew Goat and, forgive me for this pronunciation, Awi for Quail Crossing, who drew the Diemi and Julius art on day 3. Quail Crossing also has a toy house under the same name if you want to look at more of her art and characters. To kind of keep the balance for what Quail Crossing has drawn for me, I decided to draw 2 of her characters who are a couple as well. That being Goat and Awi. And in this illustration, they're going to be having a tender, sweet moment together. Goat, the redhead, is described by Quail Crossing as a little feral guy with no boundaries or impulse control. He is actually pretty smart, but he uses his brain for being stupid only. He is annoying, he is loud, he is unbearable at times, but if you tell him that, he'll just laugh at you. But he's crying inside if he thinks you don't want to be his bestie anymore, which is very relatable to me as someone who is both outgoing and social at times, while also being a very anxious and sensitive people pleaser. The one with the glasses, on the other hand, Aoi, as Quail Crossing writes, is a really tall guy who basically is a failed experiment to turn a guy into a bird deity. It did not go well. Aoi's just a confused, nervous guy who peaked in high school. He's very gentle and quiet, but he's constantly trying to seem like a harder, intimidating version of himself. He's really tired and his back hurts. I'm a really big fan of like dynamics where like the two people are opposites, but there's also a layer to it. So in this case, Goat is described as being like very energetic and kind of like annoying and might be perceived as stupid, but he's like a very smart guy. And then Aoi, he's someone who's very just kind of tired, but also very kind and gentle, who tries to be very intimidating. So there's layers like an onion, and I really like it. As you can tell by the gradient, I originally set up this piece to have like a warm orange color scheme, but I later switched it to a purple pink color in order for Goat's skin color not to blend in with the background. I also remember going to one of those height difference websites to enter in their heights to make sure I got their pose right, because if I remember correctly, I think they have about like a 2-foot height difference, and I really wanted to make sure I like got that down correctly. I'm not sure if I did that though, but at least I tried. But yeah, here we go. Goat and Aoi for Quail Crossing. Day 7 was another multi-illustration day, starting off by defending myself by drawing Allistar Holloway, who belongs to Angelic Aphelion. You can also find them on their Toy House account, Angelic Aphelion, and on their Tumblr, Virtual Minotaur. I don't play a lot of Minecraft. Actually, I think my total play time of Minecraft throughout my whole entire life is in the single digits. I just never got into it. Regardless of that, I was really drawn to Angelic Aphelion's take on an Enderman here with Allistar, making a ominous stick figure thing into more of a creature with whiskers and a tail. I think is really cool and charming. And I also just really like the outfit Allistar wears, specifically the Zealot variant that I drew in this piece. Though originally I think I was going to draw like the actual like canon outfit they wear. But I just really liked how the ender pearls kind of dangled and were used as a decorative material in the Zealot variant. So that's what I ended up going with. For Allistar's pose, I drew them pointing in a way that could indicate they were giving a very passionate speech, or maybe pointing at like Minecraft Steve himself and yelling something like, "Guards, seize him!" followed by a comedic chase scene where they go through a hallway with all the doors. You know the trope. Overall, not the most complicated piece, but I really liked working in a cooler color palette with the yellows, greens, and purples. And here's a finished Allistar. Yippee! Hope you enjoy it, Angelic Aphelion. Whoopie doodle. The second piece I drew is finally another attack. I'm finally back on the offensive. This time with, I apologize for mispronouncing this, Beckno Kid, which you can check out their art on Tumblr, Twitter, Toy House, and Blue Sky under the same name, with her characters Rosalivia and Etahis. And the thing about this attack, you know what they say about assuming, right? Beckno Kid is a very talented artist that I have been following probably since I was a teenager. So when I saw that she had made a post that she was participating in Artfight this year, I was like, oh, I gotta draw something to show my appreciation for all the art and all the cool characters she has that have really inspired me over the years. And when I saw that two of the characters she had on her Artfight account were Rosalivia and Etahis, I was like, I gotta draw these two. Something about a literal space empress whose goal is to rid the universe of the very concept of love, and her royal advisor who looks down on pretty much everyone else but holds her in high regards and supports her in her goals. It hits. It hits so good. The thing is, the seeds of self-doubt were firmly planted in my brain, and I thought this attack would be seen as like clout chasing or something. For every single attack or defense I did this year, I attached a private message / description to it, just basically asking like, hey, is it okay if I share the speed paint and mention, my time drawing your characters in this video I'm making? You would be credited, of course. There's no pressure, yada, yada, yada. And I just assumed in my stupid little anxiety brain, Beckno Kid would give the no-go, so I didn't record the speed paint for this piece. Which is a real shame, because, well, I really liked this piece, and you're seeing this segment now. She gave me the go-ahead. So if you're seeing this, Beckno Kid, I really apologize. Sorry about that. If we lived in a timeline where I recorded the speed paint of this, I would have gone into details about how this piece was influenced by this one illustration / advertisement made by Renee Marguerite, and how I wanted this illustration to have the vibes of a royal portrait with the Grand Empress herself looking at the viewer with her royal advisor standing in support behind her. But in this timeline, I didn't do that, so we just have the image. And for all of those watching this segment now, just remember, try to have some confidence in yourself and in your goals and ideas before you self-sabotage like I just did. Week 2! Let's give it up for week 2! On day 8, I was attacked by Woodland Ghost, who drew Damien and Julius walking into the woods in a piece called, well, Some Peace. And by Soul Slug Arts, who drew Levka and his OC, excuse me for mispronouncing this, Diamata, together hanging out in a illustration called Sword Talk. It's kind of crazy, on day 8, I was already experiencing some burnout, as my notes for that day literally began with, "Kinda want to know art, because my hand hurty, frowny face." Fascinating commentary passed me. I ignored these feelings for the time, and instead went to draw a defense for Donnie or Lane on Artfight. I decided to do something a little crazy, and that was drawing all of Donnie or Lane's characters. Which might sound crazy, but Donnie or Lane only had 3 characters on their Artfight page, that being in order from left to right, as seen in this drawing, Kay, Ray, and Abby. Which, 3 characters in one drawing, something very doable on my end. I also wanted to draw all 3 of them together, because I would have felt bad splitting them up, because according to their character descriptions, Kay and Abby are both dating Ray, but Abby and Kay are not dating. But according to Donnie or Lane, the 2 of them are still friends. Hell yeah, polyamory! And hell yeah to these 3, as I now take the time to get a bit more into their individual personalities, as described by Donnie or Lane. Once again, in order from left to right, Kay, a silly goth guy who likes causing chaos. Ray, a nerdy gal who likes snails and customizing her clothing. And Abby, just a silly gal who likes Hello Kitty and Garou fashion. I think it's really sweet that these 3 are all part of different subcultures, I can just see the three of them having these various exchanges and conversations about their respective hobbies and interests, or maybe even influencing each other's fashion a bit. Especially since, from my understanding, that in a lot of subcultures, like with goth, fashion, whatnot, before it became something mainstream that companies wanted to make money off of, it was a lot harder to achieve that look, especially if you are on a budget. So a lot of it then, and even now of course, has a culture of do-it-yourself fashion. And I can only assume it's a similar case of Garou. So with Ray, who has an interest in customizing her clothes, I think a lot of fun interactions could come from that. Or at least that's what I think. These aren't my characters, so it's all up to Donnie or Lane to decide what they do. And here you go, Donnie or Lane. Have a happy art fight! On day 9, I got attacks from Quantum Art 713. We are lost, aren't we? My OCs Volpez and Daisy Dawnlight lost in the Liminal. Azure by Vincers? Yeah. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Another offensive maneuver from me, as this time I'm attacking another member of Clownhaus, my wondrous friend Cucumber, whose Artfight account is High-Res Cucumber, and you can also check out his art and characters at his Twitter account, High-Res Artbur. For this attack, I redraw and study this book cover illustration for Alexander and Leopold. Ooh, I'm going to be mispronouncing this. Ruthog? Austrian Brothers Painters, 1870 to 1946. Two Venetian painters around 1900 that I found via the Tumblr account Mermaid and Mystic. This is one of those attacks for Artfight that I had been patiently waiting to start drawing once July came around, and despite this, I was also kinda dreading it, nervous about it. I was a funny combination of excitement of trying something new, while also nervousness about how hard it would be. Okay, maybe not that hard, but for me, drawing things like straight lines required for this golden frame that overlays this piece is something I don't normally do. I've said this before already in previous videos, and I'll say it again. My style is very loose and very rough, and straight lines are usually something I don't really concern myself with all that much. So to make things easier for myself when it comes to the straight lines, I decided to use the Direct Draw Rectangle tool, but only for some of this painting, because then I decided to use my own hands again to draw the other parts of this frame soon after. So, I don't know what I was thinking. If you want straight lines, use the tool that gives you straight lines. Anyways, onto the characters that I'm drawing. It's Coriander, but Coriander isn't the only character of Cucumbers I drew in this piece. To parallel the figures at the bottom of the original piece, I also drew another 5 of Cucumber's OCs before I even started drawing Coriander. In order from left to right, we have Oblivion, Oak, Ouroboros, Arcticus, and the last character who intentionally doesn't have a name, but sometimes is referred to as Clump as a stand-in for the concept of his name literally being non-existent. I sadly don't have enough time to get into the lore of this band of characters. Just know that this bunch, they all have ties to Coriander in some way or another. And they are all very cool. Now on to the main man himself, Coriander. In the words of Cucumber, is a guy who sucks and secludes himself to work on magic stuff all day. If he's not being rude, he's being rude. And also, he knows every spell ever, but the debuff is that his back hurts. I mean, you know what they say, with great power becomes great back pain. Hopefully Coriander here can get some fantasy Tylenol and or fantasy icy hot. The rest of this drawing process wasn't anything too crazy. I honestly could have spent a much longer time making the background more refined and not be as much of an abstract mess as it is in the final product. I had already spent 2 hours on this piece at this point, and I was just ready to go on to the next. So here it is, the final illustration with in all its glory, with all of High-Res Cucumber's awesome OCs. Day 10, I woke up to a powerful attack of the main cast of Liminal Lost and Found. Vulpes, Daisy, Lefka, and Azure drawn together singing the song Just a Game, which was a pretty well-known Lost Wave song that was finally found June of this year. And if you are curious, I really recommend not only checking out the song, but also into the search that took part to find and identify the full version. Okay, I have a confession to make. On this day, this is the first day I do something totally unexpected. Something totally unforeseen. I don't draw anything. I was tired and my hand hurt, so I drew nothing. I just took a break. Nothing else much to say. So, day 11. I got attacked by Yankophobic, who drew Nova. And say it with me, folks. Today I drew another defense. This time it was for Woodland Ghost on Artfight, and I drew their characters Lucian Wood and his trusty steed, Spider. Woodland Ghost describes Lucian as a silly guy who likes to go camping and the occasional adventure. And I'm really curious what those adventures could be like, because Lucian is both a cowboy and a witch. Which, tee-hee-hee, is such a fun combination. Both Lucian and Spider have these design traits that read as very Halloween-y to me. The colors and the details, like Lucian's face looking like a skull, Spider the horse having multiple eyes, like an actual spider. All of this combined with something that, in my mind, I don't associate with Halloween all that much, being cowboys. I just love how Artfight I can get introduced to characters who have designs and concepts that are based off of things or ideas I would have never thought of. And yeah, I think Lucian and his horse Spider are very cool. Originally, I wanted to draw them by a campfire at night, but I ended up not doing that. But it's still at night. Maybe they are about to settle down after a long day spent on the road, or maybe it's early morning before the sun has come up and the two are about to head out and go to wherever their travels take them. I had a hard time making sure I painted Spider's skin in a way that was both accurate to his design while also being cohesive to the rest of the piece. I think especially with the help of my favorite gradient map, I was able to get something that I liked. Lucian and Spider were a grand time to draw. Thank you so much, Woodland Ghost. Happy Artfight! On day 12, I received this wonderful art by Meaniest, betraying Nova and her OC, and I'm gonna definitely mispronounce this, I'm so sorry, Pupicla, performing together. I also received some more art of Nova, this time drawn by Fairy Draws. This time, Nova's doing a solo act. Very cool stuff. As for the art I drew for today, it's another defense, this time on Soul Slug Arts, who you can also find on Tumblr under Soul Slugs and Art, and on Toy House under Soul Slug Arts. And this piece went under a unique process. Originally, this piece was going to be a kind of play off of the attack where Soul Slug Arts drew Lefka and his character together. So in the original attack, Soul Slug Arts wrote in the description, thought it was funny. She, being Diamata, has a red-headed partner who likes swords and has a similar energy to Levka. So I was like, what if I drew a funny and had my OC Levka be like an awkward but enthusiastic third wheel to Diamata and her partner Sasha? I wasn't feeling the Levka though, so eventually I just cut him out of the picture and focused on Diamata, aka Mata, the Knight of the Sun, and Sasha, aka Sash, the Cleric of Lux. One thing I found sweet about the two is that Soul Slug Arts had written about them in both of their descriptions was that they met as kids and remained best friends, as well as being in a relationship, which once again I think is really sweet. And here's the happy couple. And I actually drew some more art for this day, but there is a disclaimer. I am putting these two defenses together simply because this is my second and third time where I don't have the speed paint footage. And the reason this time is really stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. I, for some reason, thought I wouldn't have enough space on my laptop to store the footage, so I didn't record. If I could go back in time, I would have some words with my past self. Like, you have an external hard drive. Past me, what were you even thinking? Anyways, we live with our mistakes and we have to work with them. So I can, at the very least, share the two pieces of art I have drawn and go into a little bit about these characters and the creators behind them. First we have, I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm just going to kind of spell out the first part, YNMC D Will, who belongs to Quantum Art 713 on Artfight. Her description reads, she appears as a little crow, but she's actually a human, or at least that's what she says. She has taken on the will of a young pirate, and now she will, become king of the pirates. She acts more like a parental figure than a captain to her crew. As her name implies, YNMC is a One Piece OC, and as an extremely casual One Piece fan myself, I just had to draw her. YNMC is also very mysterious to me. I have so many questions, like, what does she has taken on the will of a young pirate mean? Has she inherited that will from Luffy? Is Luffy dead? Is it more of a Shanks situation where, Luffy passed it down? Or is this before Luffy, before Shanks, before Roger's time with that iconic straw hat? But that's just a game theory. As for the art itself, I went on a bit of a different direction and actually did a sketch layer and then a line art layer and colored this piece using the Clip Studio Paint default watercolor brushes. And yeah, I liked how it came out. Next we have Tillin, who belongs to Vincers on Artfight, but you can also check his Tumblr account at Vincent3338 if you are interested in checking out his other work. Tillin, according to her reference sheet, is a werewolf shapeshifter, with some of her design elements being inspired by a maned wolf. In the art I drew of Tillin, I drew her in this half-body pose that I mainly decided upon because I found this reference image on Pinterest and I thought it looked cool. Nothing too complicated about this piece, just kind of straightforward. I wish I could go into more, I'm sorry. But anyways, Quantum Art 713 and Vincers, I am so sorry about that. And I'm sorry you were having to deal with the brunt of my mistakes. But I truly did have a fun time drawing each of your characters. Have a wonderful art fight. Day 13, Beckno Kid did a defense on me that I wasn't expecting. A very sweet portrayal of Damien and Julius, and I will look at this for the rest of my life now. Thank you, smile. And it's at this point I would like to go on another side tangent here. So the 13th of July 2024 was a Saturday, right? Well, on Saturday mornings, I go help my dad buy groceries for the week. Well, sometimes we go on Sunday mornings depending on the schedule, but that's not the point. Anyways, we were driving to the local Wally World, and I saw this sign outside a local restaurant. Link Biscuit, $2.89. Now, obviously, this was a sign advertising an American-style biscuit with a sausage link you could have for breakfast. But my brain went, they put Link from Zelda in a biscuit. And even though it's almost halfway through the month at this point, this specific sign would become kind of like a checkpoint for the rest of the month that another week of Artfight has passed. And for some reason, it now is a phrase that constantly pops up in my brain. Something that I keep saying to myself as like a new vocal stem. Link Biscuit, $2.89. I even made a little song. Link Biscuit, Link Biscuit, Link Biscuit, $2.89. I don't know. Just to look inside my vast, twisted mind. This next part is a bit complicated, so I started a defense on Cynical6, but it wasn't uploaded till the 14th. Hashtag I stayed up late drawing this piece to the point that the next day rolled over. But because I started this piece on the 13th, I'm talking about it here. So this illustration, I am drawing a portrait of Ticketaker, who is an OC that belongs to my friend and another member of Clownhaus, Travis, aka Cynical6, who you can find her on a whole bunch of other social media sites under the same username, including here on YouTube. So go check out her stuff, it's really neat. Ticketaker, as described by Cynical6, is a show woman over anything else, typically caring more about spectacle than anything else. She's prone to put people into dangerous stunts and conditions, caring little about public safety as long as it's flashy. Genuine concerns mean nothing to her. Typically, she acts smarmy to others, putting on a facade of caring about her population. Unfortunately, this does work, and she mostly has a positive reception. Which, considering she is the mayor of an entire city, she's got the whole entire politician thing down pat. She's great at it. Ticketaker and the story she and many other of Cynical6's characters take place in is called Vermilion, named after the very city Ticketaker is the mayor of. Vermilion does have a lot of influence from the 1920s and its aesthetics, and because of that, I wanted to draw Ticketaker in a style seen in a lot of those vintage illustration ads from the time. So I did use 2 illustrations as inspiration for this piece. I sadly couldn't find the original artist for either one of them, but what I did find out was that one is from what I believe to be from a Brazilian magazine cover from 1931, and the second one being a backing design for a fairly popular set of playing cards from the 1920s, specifically made in 1928 and often referred to as Dolores. The photo credit goes to the Congress guy on r/playing cards, which is where I also found out about the other info about this illustration. So thank you for making a post about this card deck, the Congress guy. The visual arts weren't the only thing that were with me when I was drawing this piece. I had the song, The Undecided, performed by Django Reinhardt and Stephen Grappelli on the violin, and sung by Beryl Davis on a constant loop while drawing this. Which is funny because I'm pretty sure the song, or at least the version of it, came out in the 1930s, which is definitely not the 1920s. But the one image that I was heavily referencing was from 1931, whatever, it all works out. So yeah, here we go, the girl boss herself, Ticketaker. On day 14, I got attacked by Grody Brat, who drew this art of Volpez, and another attack by my friend Hank, aka Luminous Star, with Man, Issue 1. On to the art that I drew, this time being Lily, who belongs to Yankophobic on Artfight, and you can also find her on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram under the same username. I knew right off the bat, out of Yankophobic's OCs, I was going to draw Lily. Her melancholic expression caught my eye. Yankophobic describes Lily as someone who is quiet and introverted, but what struck a chord with me was the information that Lily likes to sit around parks in order to find inspiration for herself. So I drew her doing just that. One thing you might notice is that the colors may look a bit strange here, and by that I mean the total and complete lack of colors. And don't worry, your screen isn't broken. I just set the layer properties on this illustration to be only in grayscale. I wanted to try and focus on the values of this piece, and you will see later, as I actually recorded it all the way this time, is that I would be using a gradient map later on to add some color. I find it interesting looking back in the speed paint that the original sketch she had a much more playful expression compared to her look in the final version. I'm kind of split on the grass and leaf brushes I used for the background. For the sake of convenience, it was nice, but it kind of looks a little off, maybe if I used them better. I also probably should have tried to use more layers while working on this piece, because it would have really helped me a lot. For example, I think I have to constantly go back and fix and mess with the bench because I drew over it somewhere somehow. But yeah, all in all, I liked how this piece turned out. And Yankophobic, thank you so much for the opportunity to draw your OC Lily. Week 3 of Artfight begins with day 15, where I got a revenge chain from Donnie Orlane, who drew the Collector this time. And day 15 started off kind of strange when I tried to open my art program and what's this? What happened to Clip Studio Paint? Why is everything so green? That's because, dear viewers, I'm not using Clip Studio Paint for this illustration. I'm using KidPix Deluxe 4. A bit of an archaic art program, but one I am a bit familiar with at this point. The reason why I decided to change up programs was mainly because the character I'm drawing for this defense I thought would be rather fitting to draw her in KidPix Deluxe 4. This character is, and pardon me for the mispronunciation, is Pupicla, who belongs to Meaniest on Artfight, who you can also find at MeanIs on Twitter. And once again, I had to go for the clown character because, what can I say, I think clowns are neat. Meaniest describes Pupicla as such. Pupicla is a 23-year-old woman. She has been working as a clown for a while now. She is very silly and open-minded. Aside from working as a clown, she has other interests, such as party management, toys, and machinery, and drawing. I can see Pupicla drawing up all sorts of plans and toys to make the best parties ever for both herself and her friends. Drawing in KidPix Deluxe 4 comes with its own challenges. There is no reference window, so I had to make sure I had a reference of Pupicla on my phone. to make sure I was drawing her as accurately as possible. And you can actually see me in the beginning start one composition before completely starting over from scratch. In this second and final attempt, I drew her in a pose where she looks like she's putting on a performance, maybe even singing. I'm not sure if that fits in with her character lore, but I hope at least she looks cool. Aside from going back and forth, making sure certain parts of the piece were as neat as they could possibly be, I used one of the pre-made balloon brushes in the program to make it look like a party was going on. And there we have it, Pupicla is done. I also drew another illustration on day 15, this time being Tyler Robotoon, who belongs to Fairy Draws on Artfight. And you can also find them on various other accounts which I am putting up on screen. It was a lot of fun getting to interpret Fairy Draw's cartoony style into my own art style when drawing Tyler, especially since he is another Toontown Cog OC, and taking stylistic choices that I make when drawing other cogs and applying them to Tyler here was really cool to see. I went for drawing him in a much more chill, hands in pocket pose that might not reflect the energetic personality that Fairy Draws describes him having, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. I do remember having some issues getting the cap he wears at the right angle, and for the background on this piece, I drew the little frog that is seen on his pajama shirt. It ended up kind of looking like a SpongeBob background, or maybe I'm just making connections where there are none. I'm sorry, I once again don't have a lot to say for this piece. It just went that smoothly for me for the most part. I hope you enjoy the Defense Fairy Draws Happy Art Fight. On days 16 and 17, I was focused on a singular defense. That being for my friend Hank, who is also another member of Clownhaus. Hank, aka Luminous Stars on Artfight, and Everything Incorporated on Tumblr, and I'm_in_the_walls on Twitter, has a lot of cool OCs. But I decided I would be drawing two of his characters, Luno Cosmia, a young hot-headed do-gooder who has a strong, almost compulsive desire to help people, and Mick Talk, a historian and swordswoman wielding incredibly potent time powers. Those descriptions of the pair being Hank's words, not mine. And this Artfight entry is one of a kind among all of the other ones I have done, not only for this year, but for all of my Artfight career. Because currently, this is my first and only animatic that I've drawn for Artfight. I came across this voice reading of this Tumblr post by YouTuber Luke Coria. When I first heard it, I immediately thought of Luno and Mick, especially since the two are a couple already. If you are someone who has been around my channel for a bit, you actually may have already seen the finished product of this, as I did post it to my YouTube channel already. If you haven't seen it, I'll try to link it in the description. I will also be linking Luke Coria's original reading of it, so check out both if you can. I definitely went in a very obtuse way about making this, just like most of the animatics or quote-unquote animations I do on this channel. That being drawing each scene in Clip Studio Paint and then putting everything together in DaVinci Resolve, the editing program I use. Like, if I was smart, I would just use the animation tools Clip Studio Paint EX provides. But I have tried to understand the user interface for that, and it still really confuses me. So until the day I get better brain cells, I'll just have to make animatics in this extremely contrived way. But anyways, here's the funny video for you, Hank. Smile.
Do you have any pets?
Girls like sensitive guys, right?
A cat. What is his name?
Girls also like tough guys. Missile launcher.
On day 18, with another member of Clownhaus checked off my list, I decided to go back to back by attacking another member of Clownhaus, and thus another friend of mine, this time being Milk, who you can find at Milktrition on Artfight, Tumblr, and Twitter. For this attack, I am drawing Yeveliv, Piante, who Milk describes as a budding alchemist after her dreams of magic were dashed. Yeveliv was young when she was adopted by her mother's research assistant, Voyric. It was only recently she discarded her previous last name and adopted her current one, trying to put the past of her parents' deaths behind her. I used a different set of brushes called Rough and Casual Brushstrokes. They were free for a limited time. I'm not sure if they still are free. Regardless though, if you are interested, you can find them. Check them out under the Clip Studio Asset Store ID number 2099914. This drawing, in an attempt to take baby steps with these new brushes, is just a simple portrait of Yeveliv, and it's because it's so simple in composition that I just don't have any insightful commentary. That's a reoccurring theme in this video, it seems. That, or it's because it was late night when I was writing this part of the script out. Damn it, past me, why would you put this down? Anyways, I had a lot of fun drawing Yeveliv. I love characters with pink hair supremacy, and I know it's not the most complicated piece, but I still hope you enjoy it. Regardless, Milk, smile. On day 19, I will not lie, I was getting burnt out again. I was drawing one, if not multiple illustrations every day for a good portion of the month at this point. My hands were getting sore and I needed a break. So I took one. On days 19 and 20, I drew nothing. I visited with family, made sure to go to bed super early, all to make sure I could keep my energy up for the rest of the month. But even though I wasn't drawing anything at the time, doesn't mean I wasn't doing nothing. In fact, since the 17th, I had been on a hunt of the shiny variety. For context, in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there was this event where the Pikachu line as well as Mimikyu were having these shiny boosted outbreaks as part of this event. Screw it, I have a shiny charm and Violet let me go hunt some shinies. And over the course of a few days, I got the whole Pikachu line as well as a Mimikyu as shinies. I wish I had foresight to record live reactions to all of these, but I didn't. But here are some clips of me coming across shiny Raichu, both Cantonian and Alolan forms.
Yo, shiny Raichu, let's go! Shiny fucking Raichu!
Wait, focus. Focus.
Focus!
Oh my god, that Pikachu is adorable. Wait, that's not Pikachu, that's Raichu. Fuck!
Very insightful, past me. Thank you. Anyways, I just wanted to show off my funny electric rats and their goth cousin. Back to Artfight. On the 20th, I was attacked by Rabbit Monday, who drew the attack Daisy Goes to Kid Pics, in which my OC Daisy, she's in Kid Pics. I really love how she's drawn in the style of a Generation 1 My Little Pony. It's really cute. The idea for what I would draw on day 21 came from a very silly thought that popped into my head. These two young men are Phillip and Link, and they belong to Grody Brett on Artfight, who you can also find on both Tumblr and Instagram under the same name. As Grody Brett has written, Phillip is pretty darn mentally ill. Between the trauma of his past and being trapped in a magical forest for decades, he's struggling to find some normalcy. He's very gentle and caring, but he can lose control of himself sometimes. And Link is kind of a jerk. Well, maybe more than kind of. But he's just repressing the fact he's gay and making it everyone else's problem. There's good in him though. You just have to peel back the 21 layers of emotional repression. These two are dating, and I think they have a pretty fun dynamic going on between the two of them. But what sparked my creativity is that Phillip is Italian and Link is Filipino. So my first thought was, what if they were on a fancy dinner date eating each other's culture's version of spaghetti? So Link is eating the classic Italian spaghetti, while Phillip is eating the not as well known, at least I don't think it's as well known, Filipino version of the dish, which has a much sweeter sauce and uses either hot dog or some other type of sausage as meat. Or at least from my understanding, I've sadly never had Filipino spaghetti. Like I said before, it's a very silly idea, but it's what came to mind, so I went for it. I ended up doing just some basic line art and colored this piece in with grayscale values and just some hatching for shading. Originally, I had plans to do the same thing here as I did with Yankophobic's defense by adding a gradient map to add some colors, but I ended up liking the grayscale version so much I just left it as is. So here is Phillip and Link on a nice dinner date for Grody Brat. Week 4 kicked off to a very exciting day 22 in which I drew nothing. Again, like I said, super exciting. But on the bright side, I did get attacked by Samalander, who drew this incredible art of Damien and Julius. Okay, actually starting the week off, for day 23, I drew a character who belongs to another friend of mine and another member of Clownhaus, Dungeon, who didn't have any of his other socials listed on his Artfight account, but I am still going to plug in his art account on Twitter, which is Dungeon Rated Art, and I think you should go check it out. Smile. His OC, good old Star Paddlecorn, is another Toontown OC, specifically for Corporate Clash. But unlike the previous Toontown OCs I've drawn, Star is a Toon. For the attack, I decided to do something, again, a bit different from the other art I've drawn this year, and that is drawing Star multiple times in a collage style format, I think is what you would call it, I'm not sure, in a character sheet format. Part of this is because I just didn't know how I wanted to draw them, but also something in hindsight that is obvious when you think about it, but I only found out about it recently, is that on Artfight, you can draw the same character multiple times in a piece, and you can count all individual times when getting points for an attack. For example, when looking at the details for this Star attack, I have Star listed multiple times with the various ways I drew them, from bust to full body. Yeah, for the longest time, I didn't know you could do that. Like, if I was categorizing this attack last year in 2023, I just would have listed this as one full body. I don't know why I had this misconception, but for the longest time, I thought just listing it as the most of what you drew for a character was the fair thing to do. I don't know what was up with my brain. So shout out to the official Artfight Tumblr where I was able to find this information. One final thing I want to say about this piece is a funny little coincidence that happened. So the funny little shooting star in the background, I drew that on a whim just to take up some space on the piece. Yeah, it kind of resembles a Palm Pals plushie Dungeon owns. Funny stuff there. Anyways, here's the finished art of Star. On day 24, I was feeling quite inspired by the attack I drew for Dungeon, so I decided to draw another character sheet style attack. This time, it was a defense. But I was also inspired by some more brushes that I found on the Clip Studio Paint Asset Store, this time being these textured brushes and stamps by Zwebel38 under the content ID of 2101489. And who is this character I'm drawing today? That is Angel, who belongs to Rabbit Monday on Artfight, and you can also check out his other accounts on Tumblr, which is Rabbit Monday, and Instagram at Rabbit Mondays. In this piece, I started with the background. I really wanted to go experiment and play around with these new abstract brushes and stamps, but also using some other brushes I had downloaded and default patterns that came with Clip Studio Paint. I wanted to go for a look that was like I had ripped paper, but also layered it with some other patterned paper. It did not at all look like that, but it was eventually covered up by the actual art itself, so in the end, I guess it didn't really matter. Speaking of, the two portraits of Angel I drew was really fun. I really like his design. It kind of reminds me of like late 90s, early 2000s. At least his outfit does. Though I was literally a baby during those years, so I can't really say from personal experience. The final thing I drew on this character sheet is actually one of Angel's inventory items, being this cute little Hello Kitty-esque cat plush called Kitty Beloved. All in all, I had a great time drawing Angel and Rabbit Monday. I hope you like the art. Happy art fight! The second illustration I drew on day 24 was another defense, this time for Samalander, aka Samalander01 on Tumblr, by drawing one of Samalander's OCs, Lizabeth. Samalander describes Lizabeth as a 20-something ball of chaos. Lizabeth is gaslight, gatekeep, and girl boss all in one. She will rob you blind with no remorse. Her life motto is to be gay and do crimes. This was another piece that took me a bit to get together despite it being another simple portrait. I spent a considerable amount of time working on the background. Look, I just wanted it to look a certain way, soft but with some interesting texture, and if that meant me having to go back and forth for a bit on it, so be it. And I went and even did even more back and forth nitpicking when it came to her left shoulder and making sure her jacket was hanging off at the right angle. I could, for not the life of me, make up my mind on how that was going to look. I also made a creative choice by making her jacket a puffy jacket instead of the type of jacket seen in the art, instead of the reference I have of her. I eventually got to drawing her face, and thankfully that didn't take me as long. I did have to play around with the shading to make sure I didn't go over the top with it. And that's about it for this art of Lizabeth. I hope you enjoy Samalander01. Day 25. Artfight is closing in, and with not a lot of time left, I'm really focusing on my first goal, drawing one piece of art for each of my friends. This time being my friend Terror, who you can find on Artfight under the username Terror Storyteller, and on Tumblr, Twitter, and Toy House under these accounts. Terror's character is Juno, an OC made for the Roblox Loreverse project, which I don't know anything about, not gonna lie. I didn't even know Roblox existed until 2020. I never played it as a kid, so a lot of Roblox stuff goes completely over my head. I do know about the oof sound, though, and the history behind that. I even later told my mother about it, and she was very proud of me. Jokes aside, this illustration of Juno was a simple side profile, though I do remember having some trouble making things look right. Like, you think you know how to draw something one day, and then you try to draw it another day, and you just can't make it work. Yeah, that's how it was for me with this portrait of Juno. I eventually got it to maybe something that looks okay, but hey, the bright side of things, this was my 100th attack on Artfight. Maybe a bit anticlimactic that the 100th attack I did wasn't like some grand masterpiece, but I'm proud I got to that achievement in the first place. So here's Juno. Happy Artfight to you, Terror. Sure, I got the 100 attack achievement, but I still had some more art left in me to draw. So let's do a quick victory lap of the last few pieces of art I drew for Artfight this year. Day 26, I went on the offensive and drew Victoria for Fang Fury, a fellow art YouTuber, who I did record a speed paint footage of this piece, but I wasn't sure if I was in on the clear of sharing that. Here's just the art. I went in a more realistic direction and used colors mostly within the Zorn color palette, and the background actually kind of looked like, it's kind of hard to describe, you know, that very specific like 2000s aesthetic you see in some homes where it's like live, laugh, love, that kind of like brownish Renaissance. I wasn't trying to do that, it just kind of happened. But yeah, here's Victoria. Day 26 was also my dad's birthday, so I made him a basic cake. I like the decorations on it though, that was fun. On day 27, I got attacked by Riot Park, who drew this amazing art of Julius in this piece titled Wahoo! I drew another attack, this time being for another member of Clownhaus, Envy Honey Fluff, and her character, Scarlet Flurry Wing. I also found some more brushes that I wanted to try out that specifically mimicked stationery items like ballpoint pens and highlighters. I think it's called Burro Pin P School Supply Brushes for Clip Studio Paint by Foreign Brush on Ko-fi. I love these brushes a lot, and I'll try to link them down below. Hopefully I'll remember. They are free, but you can also pay for them, and if you are able to, I would encourage that, because I think it's cool when you support artists and their independent products. But yeah, these brushes are amazing. In fact, I fell in love with them. They made me very nostalgic because when I was in high school and in community college, I would constantly draw with the real thing. And these brushes reminded me so much of that period of my life. And I would also actually draw the next two Artfight pieces using these brushes. I just enjoyed them that much. 10 out of 10, recommend. Anyways, onto the art. Scarlet Flurry Wing is a little hard to describe because she actually has a few different alternate universe versions. specifically for both Toontown Corporate Clash and for Deltarune. They aren't too different from each other, and the basic gist is that Scarlet is a little penguin chick who gets abandoned at an early age, but is quickly adopted by Red Hair Wing, who is a cog from the Toontown Corporate Clash game, but currently is unavailable to fight. So he's kind of like missing in action. But yeah, he adopts her, and specifically in the Corporate Clash AU, Red is helped by his friend and now partner, good old Star Paddlecorn of the dungeon rated variety. So there's a fun little OC crossover. For this attack, I drew Scarlet making various expressions, including one where she's holding a rock because she is a huge fan of rocks and crystals. And I even drew a little red hair wing on the top there, because why not? Unlike certain other large green men, red hair wing, there's no way for Corporate Clash to sue Artfight over drawing him, so I knew I was free to do so. So yeah, happy Artfight, Brandy! Day 28 is not only another multi-illustration day, it's also the final one of the video. I mean, we are pretty much at the end here, so it's to be expected, but still crazy we're at this point. And this first attack is on the final member of Clownhaus, I think. Unless I made myself forget about my longtime friend of many years, Glungus. Glungus, are you out there, buddy? Are you real, Glungus? Anyways, for this piece, I drew Valerio, who belongs to Midinos on Artfight, but you can also find him and his other accounts here. Initially, I had a hard time deciding what character I would draw for this attack, because of all the super epic and cool character designs Midinos has. But then I saw Valerio and I was like, yeah, I vibe with this guy, I'll draw him. One cool thing I did do for this piece, and something I use again for this next art I draw, is this crumpled paper texture in the background. I actually went and crumpled a spare piece of notebook paper I had, and then I scanned it with my scanner, because I thought it would make the ballpoint pens and highlighter brushes I got earlier look a bit more realistic. And if not, at the very least, I think it looks cool. This piece did take me some time because I had to get Valerio's pose and proportions just right. Midinos describes him as a paranoid wet blanket, but all problems aside, he's pretty chill to hang with. And that kind of gave me the idea of him adjusting his cap, which, like I said, took me a bit to get the pose right, but I think it was worth it, and once I got there, it was smooth sailing. Happy Artfight, Midinos. Here's Valerio. The second illustration for today was a defense, this time for Riot Park, by drawing his character Pierrot, a living clown doll like those cloth and porcelain ones you may see in an antique store. As I said multiple times in the video, I like clowns. I like jesters, I like mimes, so not much of a surprise that I'm drawing Pierrot here. A simple full body just of Pierrot walking, but now that I am looking at the pose, it almost has this smug aura to it. Like, yes, I jingle when I walk. What are you gonna do about it? Maybe not the most in line with Pierrot's character, but it's a funny idea to think about. I once again do not have a lot of insightful commentary for this drawing. I know it was fun getting to draw the patterns on Pierrot, and I almost forgot to color in their sleeves at one point, so that would have been crazy if I did forget. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Here you go, Riot Park. I hope you enjoy the art. Day 29, I had to make a tough call. Sure, Artfight wouldn't technically be over until August the 3rd, according to the website, but I realized I needed to put an end to my art fighting escapades so I could go on to the video making process. I wanted to go out doing something I loved, so I used the tag search function on Artfight and looked up Beauty and the Beast and the acronym BATB in order to find someone with original characters based off the classic fairy tale. Because, for those who do not know, I am a massive fan of Beauty and the Beast, especially all the different retellings of it outside of the Disney version. I just really love all the ways someone can take the tale as old as time and make it true to themselves. And it was through this search I came across Wraith Sinara, aka Dragonair13 on DeviantArt, and Wraith Sinara on Tumblr, their OCs, Fiol Min Ha and Theodora Dantes. I just knew I had to draw the two of them together, and this drawing went under a few transformations. First, of the pose they were in. It was going to be more of a one-to-one recreation of this reference I took from what I think is the latest season of Bridgerton. I don't know, I have never really watched the show, but I liked how it looked and I thought it was fitting. Eventually, it became this piece of the two standing and staring at each other very sweetly. Secondly, you can tell from the scanned paper texture I had there. But for a bit, I also had plans of drawing this with the Burrow Pen P brushes, but I ended up going with a classic black and white with some cross-hatching, because that's what I was feeling at the time. It took me a bit to get some things like the perspective on Minha's handbook right, specifically around the collar area. And the shading took me forever, and I still think it's a bit scuffed. But for my final piece of art for Artfight this year, I'm proud of it. Lovely send-off for Artfight 2024. Thank you, Wraith Sinera, for having such cool characters. But even though I was done with Artfight for the year, that doesn't mean everyone was. On July 31st, I got this adorable art of Julius from lavender_possum on Artfight, who you can also find on Tumblr and Instagram under the username Lavender Possum Press. And on August 1st, Elliot Chaos on Artfight, aka Esther Art Room on Twitter and Esther Art Space on Instagram, drew this massive attack of various clown OCs. And Julius was included. Both are just super cute, and I thank them both so much for drawing my funny clown man. And I'm sorry I couldn't draw anything back for this year, but you are both top of my list for next year. In conclusion, I am so tired. I am glad I did this, but oh god, this video, I don't even know, because I've been doing this in segments, but it's definitely going to be definitely over an hour. Yeah, if you got to this point, thank you. As for any complaints or critiques on Artfight this year, yeah, I don't have any. Sure, there are things that could be changed with Artfight, but there's nothing I personally want super badly. I'm content with Artfight right now. Wait, actually, I do have a request. Artfight team, if you're watching this, please make 2025 be Knights vs. Dragons. Please, I am begging you. Please, Knight vs. Dragons. Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.